This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
All right, hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. This is the show that gives you the information you need to make your next move a great one. I'm your host, Sean Dominski, and today I'm sitting down with Bobby Hulmes, Associate Broker here at RE/MAX Ace Realty. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about the market, what he's seeing, and what the market's kind of doing, kind of in the moment right now. Bobby, thanks for sitting down.
Yeah, pleasure to be here as always.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of get that like front lines, news from the front lines, basically.
From the trenches.
Yeah, from the trenches, exactly. So you've been, the summer's been weird. What have you been seeing?
It's hot.
Yeah, seriously.
The dog days, I've called them. So, in our area here, in our local market, and what I think the Northeast region of the United States, we typically have a bit of a slowdown in the summer, even in the best of markets. I usually call the 4th of July the magical window that buyers could start to regain some footing after what's historically been a challenging spring market. Folks start going to the beach, they start going to company picnics, taking their 2 weeks vacation. They're not seeing houses on the weekends as intensely as they were in the spring.
So July 4th, in your experience, is where pretty much the spring market kind of grinds to a halt, or it finally touches down.
That's a big pivot point.
Yeah.
And then, of course, depending on when the kids get out of school, it seems to be a hectic time. Again, in the Downingtown market here, Chester County, we have some really great school systems. So real estate, I think, is primarily driven by the schools. As we transition into talking about the fall market, now there's this big push to get kids in for the enrollment period and purchase your house before the school year so that they can start on time.
So traditionally, let's just talk about what we've seen. So usually, obviously we have spring market, summer market, fall market, winter market. So just assuming there's 4 periods or so. If you think the spring market ends in July 4th, then we hit the summer market, things slow down.
Yeah. For me, the date that I circle in my calendar is around August 15th. Okay. That's the period where I think most people have taken that 2-week vacation. They start to prep the kids to get back into school. And if they're still looking to buy, if they've, drudged through the mud, through the spring market, and they said, hey, let's revisit this in the fall. Yeah. They too are starting to hone in on the timing. Okay, let's get the kids back in school and then let's buy or list our home, knowing that the cold winter months are soon coming. So I noticed a big pickup in appointments I was going on, phone calls, buyer activity on my listings, and it fell right in line. It has year after year for me. I know that that depends on, of course, was I prospecting during those hot summer months when I too am trying to enjoy the beach and go to the pool, but the buyers and sellers are out there right now, and I think with the state of the economy right now and markets, there is a sense of urgency on both sides to take action either way. There really is a flame under people to move fast with rising interest rates.
So with the uncertainty, usually there is a pickup in the fall market, but with this uncertainty, you think people are trying to make their move, not knowing what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, that it really is always looking in a crystal ball, and there's folks much smarter than me that make predictions on this and often are wrong. If I were right making this call, I'd be a lot richer man than I am today. But I'm just trying to look at, for me in my business, historical data.
Exactly.
So, yes, I have seen a true spring, a true fall market. In the middle, sandwiched in the middle, is the summertime. I usually find that's a good buyer window of time because competition eases a bit. Buyers do take back a little bit more negotiating power, and we've certainly seen that this year.
Did you notice in previous summers, it almost like there wasn't a summer market because it was just hot straight through? I feel like this year, like, we're starting to get back to, I would say, a healthy ebb and flow, whereas before it was just like craziness all year round.
Yeah.
Like it didn't slow down in the summer at all because it was so backed up.
Well, and it didn't slow down in the winter either.
Right.
I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago for me, the January through early beginning of March were typically business building opportunities for me. That's when I'd maybe fine tune my logo, or I'd create some new marketing plans or shoot some new videos.
Do some videos, some podcasts.
Right, the things that are going to be fruitful for you later in the year, or years later by just growing yourself as a professional.
Yeah.
But this year there was no break, so home sales were continuing January, February. I mean, flying through March. So we missed that opportunity this year, and I think even last year. So it was a bit of honestly. Almost felt like a bit of a relief, I think, for a lot of agents when there was a bit of a halt this summer. It's a time to enjoy your family, because working as a commission only individual, you got to get it while it's hot, right? So you got to get the money while it's there and gain the business while it's there. And if there is no pause, that can quickly lead to burnout. So
it's important when you're talking about agents who are hands-on with their clients and customers. A lot of these, I feel like there's a lot of agents that'll be like, "Oh no, you build systems." It's like, okay, when you're making the largest purchase of your life, do you want to get shoved into a system, or do you want someone who's actually going to be responsive and text you back? And that comes at a, there needs to be a healthy balance there for the benefit of the buyers and the sellers too. So.
Absolutely. That's one of the strengths, I think, that I bring to the table. When I go on listing appointments, I explain that, I have a team of folks working behind me. I have people to assist me with showings and open houses and coordination of the transactions. And, I have colleagues working with me to support these clients. However, I'm the main point of contact, and that's what people want to see. They don't want to be passed off to, somebody else on the, the chain of the pyramid there. So,
unless there's a question that someone else generally has to answer, like if it's a specific title question, they can ask you. You might have to refer back to the title person, but you will be that point of contact. They will be talking to you.
Sure, I'm not, there's most times I'm not going to have the answer every time. That's I think that's a sign of an individual that's worth trusting this big purchase or sell in your life. They have the knowledge and the resources to go find the right answer, and that's what I have. I have supporting cast around me, but at the same time, they don't want to talk to 20 different individuals. They want to talk to one person. So I really pride myself on being that person. But folks that can buy houses typically are working, maybe let's just call it a 9-to-5 job. I know those hours have shifted in this new world here, but they are ready to discuss business on nights, weekends, and those challenging times for myself already working all day long and servicing clients. So that comes with the business. That's something
and also
you have to prepare yourself for.
I feel like that's also comes down to experience too, because an agent who hasn't been through several years, a couple different market cycles, hasn't really had that experience, don't really understand when they're supposed to be grinding and when they're supposed to be coasting, and then gearing up to grind again. And they get bad advice, like you just grind all the time. And it's important to take that step back and know when you work on your website or you're doing the videos and stuff like that, because you don't want to get in the middle of a project in the wrong market, and now you've got your hands full and you can't help the customers and clients as much too. So
absolutely, that's a really good point. It's something that funny enough I'm always discussing with my wife. Seasonally I've maintained, a bit of an ebb and flow. And as I was first starting out, it was unfortunately more like this, as you're learning the business and learning how to, build and generate more leads. But there is a time and a place for each activity. So my wife's looking at me and, the late July on a hot summer day, what are you doing today? Why aren't you showing houses? Well, sweetheart, I've told you before, the market moves like the market moves. Mm-hmm. Right now is a bit of a slow period where, I'm focusing on making new videos and putting out content and updating different disclosures I have and trying to put more systems in place to make the fall even easier for me,
right,
having learned lessons in the spring. So years that, looking back, that I am successful, I am able to maintain business, of course, during those times, but it isn't as intense and fast moving as April, May,
right,
early June,
right,
when all those those spring market deals are really in high speed. So so there is a time to run, there's a time to walk. It is important to be able to recognize those times, because you're going to burn yourself out. And I've gotten really down on myself when I'm out prospecting, canvassing, and knocking on doors in the beginning of a hot, August month, and the business just isn't there while everybody's on vacation this week, right? And I'm starting to get down on myself, like I can't close any business right now. Well, am I running uphill? That's the question I'm always asking myself. So
now, with those ebb and flows, what challenges are the sellers seeing? Because if ideally, listing your house in the spring is a little bit different than listing your house in the fall. And if you're listing in the middle of winter or the middle of summer, it's probably because you have to. But there's different strategies. If you're moving up, it's okay to get a little bit less on your home sale if the house that you're buying is going to be a little bit less too.
Sure.
So at the low parts, you can be selling a home but still be a buyer, because a move up buyer is the larger number is going to be on the purchase side. Whereas if you're moving down, you're more focused on getting the most for your house, not necessarily getting a deal on the next one. But so right now we're kind of mid-fall. We were talking a little bit before about how long the fall market goes into. So I personally think that, a good indicator really is daylight savings time, because once daylight saving times comes and people basically it's getting dark on people's way home from work.
Sure.
That really limits your ability to go out and see houses. And so you have all the buyer activities kind of squeezed into the weekends. You're not going to, I wouldn't recommend someone buy a house in the dark.
No way.
So all the buyer activity gets squeezed into the weekends because people aren't even home until it's dark out.
Right.
And that's where I kind of plan. If you want to kind of plan on when the market's going to slow down, I always say just watch those dates and plan accordingly.
Yeah. I think you're pretty spot on there. So not only do we have seasonal challenges this year, but currently we are looking to understand, where's the Federal Reserve going to put interest rates in the next month, in 3 months, right? We're trying to forecast that, because that is going to have significant impact on home values and home sales, as we've seen in the past. So there is a let's say, additional, fuel to the fire to get moving right away. But yes, that is a real problem that I often don't think about until I have a showing scheduled, around, October 1st, and I go, oh my gosh, it's dark out, right? I'm going through, my junk drawer looking for batteries for a flashlight to bring to these showings, and it just becomes challenging. And then as soon as the snow starts, forget about it. We start having all kinds of inclement weather, open houses canceled. Mm-hmm. Sellers don't want, wet feet in their house, right? So they're postponing showings. So there are, definitely seasonal factors to consider. So we talked about the fall beginning around August 15th mm-hmm. to beginning of September after they get the kids in. Okay, they're looking, but then maybe they take action as soon as the kids are back in school. And then really things do come to a halt right around December 1st. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're seeing those fall sales starting to close. Okay, so there's still activities to be done. You're still seeing other realtors you're friends with on social media settled, congratulations, right? Posting pictures of homes for sold, but folks really do start pinching pennies for the holidays mm-hmm. around December 1st, starting to think about the costs of buying presents for folks or spreading holiday cheer. And every year the cost keeps rising for those mm-hmm. things. So I think,
plus you have like the gatherings. I get really busy around the holidays. Yeah. It's just like every weekend's booked out with a work party or the wife's work party or, different kinds of Christmas parties. And it's great. It's a fun time, but it can be hectic.
So if you're somebody that really, you don't have an imperative to move by mm-hmm. a specific date, okay, you've went through this really challenging spring. Maybe you've lost out on a few homes with, multiple offer situations. You've mm-hmm. seen interest rates rise astronomically right before your eyes. You maybe dip your toe back in the fall. Okay, if you did it early enough, you do it right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can grab a deal. Mm-hmm. You can maybe get the home of your dreams. If you wait much longer, holidays are coming, and now you're mm-hmm. going to start getting busy. I think that individual starts thinking, well, let's revisit this next spring and see where we're at.
Yeah.
So I think we will get back to a bit of a more, what you called a balanced mm-hmm. season, a balanced year, in that there is a true fall and a true spring market. I do think that spring market begins early this year.
Okay.
I usually say the Super Bowl, so I've seen it move earlier and earlier, mm-hmm. year after year. For me, it used to be Valentine's Day after you hand over that card. Okay, get ready to help someone buy or sell a home. Now it's the Super Bowl, so it moved 2 weeks back. Now I think it begins late January after, that first snowplow mm-hmm. goes through, and folks start looking at, well, I want to buy early this year to beat the mad spring rush again,
right?
Which creates an intense competitive situation in the early spring. We'll call it winter spring, because all the buyers always beat the sellers to the market.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing folks buy homes sight unseen in February, late February, early mm-hmm. March, because the sellers are thinking, okay, I want to wait till the flowers bloom. I want to wait till, I have all these projects I want to do. It's been freezing cold and I haven't been able to get to them. Mm-hmm. If they're thinking about listing their home, they're typically about 5, 6, 7 projects away from really having their house mm-hmm. show ready. So, then we have a late spring, a late winter snow, and that delays things. So those folks end up not really being ready to come on market until April, May, when you see all the inventory come out.
Right.
And then by then it's almost too late.
Well, and that's the other thing, sometimes it's best not to be to get there first. And, when the buyers are coming out in late January, you don't want you don't have as much inventory to compete with as a seller. So for a lot of, for some sellers, it makes sense to try to get them out there, even if the projects aren't quite looking as perfect, because there's going to be a lot less to compete with than that April, May.
Yeah, there's benefits to both. Now, again, this was, an unbelievable spring for us in the business and for home sellers. But I had homes sell sight unseen. Mm-hmm. I would take a nice video of the home. I'd do a 3D virtual tour, and I could just put it in the coming soon status, and it would sell. Mm-hmm. And that eased up as more inventory came out. Folks said, okay, I really like this house, but I also want to see this other one first. Mm-hmm. So it definitely does pay to be either first or to be almost on that back end.
Yeah.
To almost near the late spring, beginning of the summer, where home sales rose. It's becoming customary for over asking price offers. The listing price is now the starting bid, and buyers are coming to the table with that mindset. So when you list your home, as soon as they see it, they're thinking, competitive bid situation. So, again, crystal ball.
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right. So let's just say, okay, fall 2022. Mm-hmm. Who is in the best position with the way things are going right now?
Ooh, good question. I'm feeling like there's going to be a bit of some feet stuck in the mud right now. Buyers seeing these interest rates skyrocket on them. Mm-hmm. Uncertainty around inflation. Okay. Inflation coming in at historical amounts. Okay. So
I was going to say right there, I would say, so the people who are really concerned about interest rates are those who need to borrow money. And so cash buyers wouldn't be as concerned about interest rates. And then if you're talking about inflation, the people who are afraid of inflation would be the cash buyers. Now, I know we've burned through a lot of those cash buyers over the last couple of years, but I'm kind of thinking, okay, so if someone is going to be a heavy cash buyer, not completely, but whereas the mortgage isn't as much of a concern, I'm thinking what price points in Chester County would see that many people. Starter homes, I feel like a lot of FHA, a lot of mortgages, a lot of financing. Maybe the higher ends, you have a lot more cash coming to the table where they're looking at inflation and they're kind of concerned that their money might not buy the same thing a year from now.
Well, it's pretty complex. So there's a lot going on right now in the state of the markets and the economy. But I'm thinking if I had to point to who's the winner right now, I think it's going to be the investors, the cash investors. Because, yes, they're not concerned about rising rates. I've seen typically the investor wants to pay less than the person that wants to make that their primary residence, and they have a mortgage behind them, and they start saying, oh, what the heck's another $10,000 to the price? That's a couple bucks in my mortgage payment, right? So they are typically, the mortgagees are typically willing to pay more for the home, okay, especially if they have an emotional attachment and want to make this their home that they live in. The investor is strictly looking at their bottom line and a set of numbers on a piece of paper. So as home sales fall, as rates rise, I think the investor comes back into the mix here, having more negotiating power, bringing cash to the table, being able to close quick. Okay, the primary occupancy borrower that wants to purchase, they're going to want more. They're going to want to inspect. They're going to want, they're going to need 30, 60 days to close. The cash buyer can close right away. These homes, we've seen home sales fall across the nation since the beginning of the summer. folks that listed late spring, early summer, or in the summer, their homes have been sitting on the market a bit, probably because they priced it a little too high, looking at the comparative sales in the late spring before interest rates rose. So they're sitting on the market and they're starting to panic a bit, and a cash borrower comes to the table and says, I can solve all your problems right away and close in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That now they're getting price movement for having cash, whereas in the early spring, the primary residence borrower was willing to pay this astronomical price over the asking price and pay for the any gap in appraisal. So, an investor, it just wouldn't be a smart investment at that price without the other intangible things like, oh well, this is going to be my home, and I don't really care if I'm paying another $50,000. This is the right place to live my life, raise my family, play fetch with my dog, whatever it may be. I think they're the ones that are going to start to make out here, because we look at the stock markets recently, right? They're not making money on their investments or their portfolio. So although home sales have fallen, we haven't seen home values decrease. So it's sometimes not taking a loss is a win. So if they purchase, there still is forecast that there's to be positive appreciation. Plus you get more, pay down, appreciation, cash flow. I call it the triple threat. So I think they're the ones that stand to win in the next coming months. For me, I have lots of experience working with investors in the single, townhome, and multifamily markets. It can be challenging to work with investors in my personal experience, because there can be a little less they're going to use who they want that's going to get them the best price. So you can be working with an investor and showing him or her several properties, and if they, if you didn't sign an exclusive buyer agency contract, they will drop you, in an instant for somebody that can get them a better price, because all that they really care about is their bottom line in an investment situation, would anybody. But
is that in their best self-interest down the road?
It may or may not be, sure, and that's of course up for debate. But I've experienced that a few times in the past, or I've worked with investors that they've bought many properties and have a portfolio, and they've used a number of agents. They have no alliance to any of them, and they don't want to sign a buyer agency contract with you. That's where some realtors will draw their line, say, I won't work with that person if they're not going to sign this agency contract with me. I'm typically the type of person, I like to be point of contact. I like to be, right there with them. And I say, hey, let me show you what I can do. So that's up for each individual agent to decide, if working with the investor is for them. So that's where I'm shifting, my focus, moving back into prospecting for investors, working with several right now. We're looking for these properties that have sat on the market and they're ready to take that price plunge.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, I really appreciate it. What's the best way that people can get a hold of you?
Sure. You can call Remax Ace Realty. Just ask for Bobby Hulmes, the Bobby Hulmes team. That's 484-712-0009. Or you can get me on the web at Home Sweet Hulmes, HULMES, homesweethomes@gmail.com, homesweethomes.com.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by Remax Ace Realty. serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.
This episode is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty in Downingtown, PA. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, we have a real estate expert for you. Search for homes or contact an agent at acerealtypa.com.